Harihi Om Sadashivasamarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Parampara Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Girim Yat Kripatamaham Vande Paramananda Madhavam. Om. So, Namaskar and welcome to our class. We are in the Shloka number 20 of Bhagwat Gita's chapter number 1. We finished up to 19 in our previous class, and today we are going to start with the 20th Shloka. The Shloka goes like this. अथ व्यवस्थितान् दृष्ट्वा धार्तराष्ट्रान् कपिध्वजः प्रवृत्ते शस्त्रसम्पाते धनुरुद्यम्य पाण्डवः. So here, after describing the war front, about how things were in the war, how it initiated, and everyone blowing the conch and ready to fight, what exactly happened? Atha, thereupon, vyavasthitan drishtva. No, drishtva is looking at, looking upon, vyavasthitan. Right? Vyavastha is a common word that is in use even today. Right? Basically, the circumstances, the surrounding. Right? So everything that is ready and how things are going to engage. Right? So basically, looking at the situation of various formations, etc. Dhartarashtran. Right here, the reference is looking upon the Dhartarashtran Vyavasthitan. Means those who are at the Dhartarashtran side or Drutarashtra's side. So he is looking at the army and trying to assess the situation over there. After looking at it, Kapidhvajah. Here the reference is to Arjuna. Kapidhvajah. Kapihi means a monkey, an ape, right? And Dhvajah is the flag. One who has the monkey as its flag, or Hanuman in his flag. So contextually, here the reference is being made to Arjuna. Pravrutti, where he is proceeding towards. Right? So proceeding to engage is the contextual meaning. Shastra Sampate. Shastra Sampate is exchange of the weaponry. So here the situation is being described to say that people are ready to exchange the weaponry, means start the fight. At that time, Dhanuhu Uddhamya. Right? Uddhamya is to raise it. Dhanuhu is his bow. So he raises his bow, the Pandava, Arjuna, the son of Pandu. This is the context for this shloka. It will continue in the next shloka. Now, okay. Here, the night of the 8th day of war, we want to just take a look at it. I think it is just a copy-paste issue. But here what happens is, okay, this is a very interesting story what happens. Right, on the 8th day of the war, he gets very agitated on the night of, he sees that Bhishma Pitama seems to be a little too lenient towards Pandava. That is what exactly happens. So now what happens is he becomes very agitated and goes to fight with Bhishma Pitama, or agitate or represent or shout at Bhishma Pitama. That is exactly what happens. He is so agitated that he'll be shouting and he'll be saying that you are being very prejudiced towards them, and that is why you're not fighting the war properly, etc., etc. So Bhishma Pitama, in one of the tale, it goes like he will do a complete puja and take a pratigya that he will use the 5 arrows to kill the 5 Pandavas. And this will be a golden arrow. And this he gives it to Arjuna. Now, Arjuna, gives it to uh, Duryodhana. Duryodhana will be, what do you say, very glad that Bhishma Pitama has taken the vow and he has put a pratigya and created this 5 golden arrows with which he will kill the Pandavas and win the war for him. Now, what happens? He wants to keep the arrow with him as under his protection and bring it to the war front in the following morning. Lord Krishna knows everything. So he calls Arjuna and says, "Hey Arjun, I want you to do one thing. Do you remember the day when you saved Duryodhana and Duryodhana has promised to a boon to you?" He says, "Which one?" And he reminds him about when Duryodhan loses to the Gandharvas when they were in the forest and he is taken captive. And Arjuna is the one who goes and rescues, Duryodhan. So Duryodhan says, "Hey, I give you this boon." And Arjuna says, "Okay, I will use it when I have the right time." So he reminds him about it, and Arjuna says, "Oh yeah, I remember." Then he says, "Please go and approach Duryodhan, and tell him to give that 5 golden bows." So Arjuna goes to Duryodhan and says, "Hey, you had given me a boon that day. Do you remember?" He says, "Yes. What do you want?" He says, "I want the 5 golden arrows." So now he is a Kshatriya. He cannot break his promise. So he goes and brings that 5 golden arrows and gives it to Arjuna. Now, Arjuna, then just as Arjuna is about to leave, Duryodhan will ask, "How did you know about it?" And to which he says, "Lord Krishna," what he says, "is the one who told." So now Duryodhan is kind of in a very awkward position. He sends him out and then he goes back to Bhishma Pitama to get 5 more arrows. But those which are built with a pratigya cannot be reproduced. That is the value there. So Bhishma Pitama tells him, "See, this is not a child's play that every time you want, I can create it. This is built out of a pratigya, and we cannot build another one with the same pratigya and give it to you. It has a lot of tapo value behind it, and that has already been given." And that way, Duryodhan would have stepped into a situation where he lays the foundation for his own defeat. Now, what is the relevance here? Uddhamya is considered a pratigya, which is a promise to fight. Now, having declared his pratigya by lifting his bow, Arjuna is bound to fight. Herein, he slips from his dharma, similar to how Duryodhan slips on the 8th day of the war. Right? It has not happened, but we are giving it as a reference to point out the weakness that Arjuna, the greatness of the weakness, or the magnificence of the weakness that Arjuna has created. This is again to reiterate that in our life, it is always possible that we take a pratigya to do something and then withdraw ourselves from it. This withdrawing is considered to be an extremely bad thing. In Tamil, there is a great poet by name Tiruvalluvar, and he says, think before you commit, but once you committed, do not think. It's a very beautiful kind of a doha. It's a 2-liner, right? But a very valuable one at that. Enni tuniga karmam, துணிந்த பின் எண்ணுவம் என்பது இழுக்கு, I think. Something like that it goes. Right? This is a very, very important value. However, if the God is on your side, which can happen only with two aspects: devotion and dharma. Even if one is lacking, then God will not be on your side. But if you have the God on your side, which means you have an unwavering devotion, a pure and a humble devotion towards God, and you are on the path of dharma, then even if you withdraw from pratigya, God will come as a savior through any means. He can come in this form of a class. Maybe you happen to listen to this class at the right time in life, right? And this will induce you back to come into your pratigya again and not slip from it. That is the relevance of the story that was earlier said. With respect to Duryodhan, he neither had the dharma nor the unwavering devotion towards God. And hence, when he failed in terms of the pratigya taken by a supreme person, such as Bhishma Pitama, he was still not able to hold on to his victory. For you to be victorious, you need to be pratigyabadh, means bound by the promises, the convictions that you make, as well as continue to have an unwavering devotion and be on the path of dharma. Moving on to the shloka number 21. So here, Hrishikesham tada vakyam idamaha mahipate Arjuna uvacha senayorubhayor madhe ratham stapaya mechyutha. Yet again, this set of shlokas kind of come together, right? And because Arjuna uvacha is coming in, there are some traditions which include the first line with the previous shloka and start this as a new line. There will be another space wherein similar intermediate uvacha will come into a shloka in this first chapter itself, which is again split. That way, making it 700 shlokas, though they will introduce the extra shloka that comes in the shloka number in the chapter number 13, in the shloka number 1 of that chapter, right? We will talk about it as we proceed, but remember that there is going to be some differences in the count because of this. We use this in our tradition. That's about it. Going into the shloka, now it is continuing with what Arjuna is doing. Hrishikesham, to Hrishikesha, Lord of all the senses, which is Bhagavan, Lord Krishna, tada, at that time, vakyam. Vakyam means the sentence, literal meaning is sentence. The words, idam aha. Aha is said, spoke, similar to uvacha. Idam aha. Here, these is the meaning of the term idam. So he spoke these words. Mahipate. Mahipate is the general reference to a king, but can be attributed to anyone who is holding a high position. Context here is the reference being made to Drutarashtra by Sanjaya. So Sanjaya is telling Mahipate, hey king, Hrishikesham, to Lord Krishna at that time, tada, vakyam idam aha, or he spoke these words, idam aha vakyam, is the way that we can put it. Now, the next aspect starts where Arjuna uvacha. Herein, these are direct words of Arjuna. Arjuna spoke. Senayoho. Senayoho is in dual form. I told you before also, in Sanskrit we have singular, dual and plural. The Senayoho takes it into the duality, which means between the two. Senayoho Ubhayoho Madhye, between the two of them. Ratham Sthaapaya Me Achyuta. That should be seen as Mey Ratham Sthaapaya. My Rath, position, situated, take it there. Achyuta, hey Lord Krishna. So at that time, Arjuna said these words to Hrishikesha. Arjuna said, "Oh, Sri Lord Krishna, take my chariot and position it or establish between the two armies." This is directly a command. Now, here there is a word that is being used, which we always take into consideration. Mey Ratham Sthaapaya. Right? It can be seen as a direct command that Arjuna issues to the charioteer. Mamakaram and ahambhavam. This is very similar to how Duryodhana and Drutarashtra had used it. Madarte tyakta jivitaha. That is the way Duryodhana says. Mamakaha pandava chaiva. Right? That is the way Dhritarashtra speaks. That mamakaram is coming out. It is not that I cannot use the word I or my. It is the reference and how, in what context it is being used. Here, because it is being issued as a command, which is even out of the order, we can say that there is an exhibition of mamakara by Arjuna as well. Now, let us compare this mamakaarattvam. With respect to Dhritarashtra, adharma and the biggest contributor to the entire kul's destruction can be attributed to the mamakara that was expressed by Dhritarashtra. The lakshan of a king, the characteristic of a king, is to see the praja above self. This is what is established by Lord Rama in Uttarakanda when he sends Sita to forest. There is still a lot of debate and argument about it, to say why should Lord Rama send his pregnant wife to the forest. The core concept, this has been discussed at length in several places. We will keep those apart, but we will just take it as a small brief note here to say that the reason why Sita was sent to the forest was to establish the dharma that for a raja, for a king, the praja must be above his own self. What about his family at the end of the day? Right? That concept of keeping the praja above self was established by Rama, and that was totally missing with respect to Dhritarashtra. He had that mamakara being expressed to that extent, which is the reason it led to the entire downfall of his cult. Now, dharma says that once a younger brother passes away, the elder brother, or vice versa, if the elder brother passes away, the younger brother, they take the position of the father of everyone. There is no distinction between the two. Pandavas are thus the children of Dhritarashtra, not anything different from Duryodhana or others. They are not Pandavaha. They are still Dhartarashtraha. He totally lost that context. So he failed very severely in terms of dharma. This mamakaarattvam is characterized as moham, delusion, foolishness, or even infatuation. This was what was exhibited by Dhritarashtra from such a noble position that he held, not only as a king, but also as the father of both Drutarashtra and Pandava. When it comes to Duryodhana, it comes like the mamakaarattvam manifests as a moham. Right? It is extremely delusional in nature. Now, for example, the assembled kings came for Hastinapur and their commitment to Kuru's kingdom and not Duryodhana. But what does he say? Madarte, for my sake, which is totally false. Right? They may have liked. Definitely, when it comes to Karna, it is his reason. Duryodhan was the sole reason, nothing else. Right? Because Duryodhan had supported him at the time when he was very, very much humiliated. And hence, he had that kritagnyata towards Duryodhan. But when it comes to all others in the army, none of them had that kind of attribution towards Duryodhan. It was all for Hastinapur. It was all for the sake of maybe Bhishma Pitama, or even for the sake of the fact that there is a blind king and that I need to support the king. It is not for the sake of Duryodhan. But his mamakaarattvam developed the delusion in him to think that they had come for my sake. Right? Here, the ahambhavam, the core to Duryodhana's adharma, can be seen. It reflects the nature of being selfish. It is not about what is right, it is about what is in my interest. That started, what do you say, as the base for every kind of Duryodhan's expression. He says, Madarte tyakta jivitaha, for letting go of their own life as well. We are not even started the war. Here, where is the question of for letting go of my life? I want to win the war, not see my people be defeated or being killed. So, to have such a thought is also an expression of his delusion or the moham. The core concept here is when the false impression of the mamakara, of the I, of the ahambhava takes the precedence, the outcome can only be the adharma. Right? So whatever Duryodhan is doing ends up into being an adharma because it is always I being projected as the main cause, which is fundamentally the error. And this is the lesson that we can learn in our life from this shloka. But if we go to Arjuna, there is a mamakaarattvam, but it is not mamakaarattvam because you will see that in the following shlokas. The fact is, it is still a mamakaarattvam. He is still seeing swajanam in even the opposition, that is ragaha. Right? That is seen as an expression towards enemies having assembled with an intent to even kill him. So this mamakaarattvam gets softened because of that. That mamakaarattvam could be seen merely as I am the lord of this chariot and I am giving this command. Right? So it can be seen purely from a command point of view as a justification. Right? Yet, what it should be seen is the mamakaarattvam did slip into Arjuna. But we will see in the shlokas that it slips away from him. So that is again another lesson where it is not that mamakaarattvam should not come into me at all. It can still slip into you, which is absolutely fine. But if your larger value is the common interest, the dharma, and the devotion to God, then the projected mamakaarattvam will vanish automatically. Right? You don't have to exercise it, but it will eventually come to the point where the mamakaarattvam will never get exhibited from you or will never manifest out of you. Now let us take a look at it from the ahambhavam. Is it possible that it is ahambhava? Yes, it is definitely ahambhava. Right? Now, despite the Garva Bhanga Padala that we spoke about, where Lord Hanuman, he comes and he brings down that particular ahambhava in the king or in the very capable person called as Arjuna, one need to know that a Kshatriya is influenced by Rajogun. So this Rajogun will continue to manifest as an ahambhava. Right? Now, the argument is, instead of using Mey Ratham, right, he could have even said Esha Ratham, means this Ratham. Right? This could have been used, and it will still fall within the, what do you say, the parameters of how the shloka is being built, grammatically speaking. But here, the use of Mey Ratham emphasizes that this ahambhava has definitely sprung out of Arjuna. This is one of the arguments. The alternate argument is to say that this is not an ahambhava. A person speaking out of ahambhava will not surrender the way that he did. Right? He says, he himself declares, dharma sammuda chetaha. Right? Yat shreyah syan nishchitam bruhi tat me. That is the way he says, that which is good for me, you tell me. He is not demanding anything. He is unconditionally surrendering to Bhagavan. It will happen in the second chapter. And that tells that perhaps it is not ahambhava. Right? We can argue it in both the ways. Right? In our tradition, we still call it as ahambhava being expressed by Arjuna, which then gets subsided when the ragaha and mohaha will bring about a total delusion in his state of affairs, and he faces Lord Krishna with a lot of confusion, with his eyes staring. That is what will happen in the second chapter. Right? Now, the whole point is, we still consider this as an ahambhava, which is projecting out of Arjuna, but there may be traditions which will speak against it. I have just given one example to say it is not ahambhava, but there can be several who says it is not ahambhava. So if you ever encounter such a discussion to say that, hey, this was not ahambhava or this was ahambhava, then it is for you to realize that such an argument is not the purpose of Bhagavad Gita. Right? If somebody is going to insist it is ahambhava, we can very humbly accept that it is ahambhava. If somebody is going to argue vehemently that it is not ahambhava, we can humbly accept that it is not ahambhava. Because for us, the matter is going to start after the 11th shloka or after the 10th shloka of Bhagavad Gita, second chapter. Right? And that is the approach that one need to have. And you will still see a lot of people commenting on these kind of shlokas. The value for us is, no, I was just fortunate to be a witness to and a participant of 1 hour of deliberation on this. No, is it required? Perhaps not. But is it useful? I personally consider it extremely useful because it helped me open up my mind towards various possibilities. Right? It is not like if somebody is going to come and talk to me about Bhagavad Gita, I try to, say that, oh, maybe this is also a possibility. I'm not stuck because of a logical argument being placed, because I understand the truth behind the shloka, or I understand the context that is of purpose to me in this shloka. But whenever there is a deliberation that takes place, it is always beautiful. That deliberation opens up your mind. So be attentive to it. Learn from such deliberations and even contribute to such deliberations. Don't ridicule the deliberation or say that, hey, it is only after the 11th shloka you will find value. There is value in every shloka of Bhagavad Gita, and that is why this is part of Bhagavad Gita. Otherwise, they could have started it from the second chapter directly as the first chapter. everything is of value, and we need to understand that value, and that value is opening up of your logical thinking brain. Right. Now, what I had written here is mind tends to believe what you hear, especially when you give reverence to a guru. Don't even give reverence to me also, to anybody. It is to that subject. And if that subject leads to a reverence in the form of a guru, then based on that subject, give that reverence to the guru. If it is not, then you can still give the reverence to the guru, but not as an absolute pramat or an absolute praman to the statement that has been made. Right? So figure out the gyan and figure out what the praman is. Going further, going into the 22nd shloka, it goes like this. Yavadetan niriksheham yodhukamanavasthitan kairmaya saha yodhavyam asmin ranasamudhyame. So here, Arjuna, here is the place where we can once again go back to his mamakaram or ahambhavam, etc. If it is out of his mamakaarattvam or ahambhava, then as a king, I don't have to express why I am issuing this command. But here, Arjuna does that. Yavat. Right? It is as soon as. Take me as soon as possible is the context here. Yetan nirikshe aham. I would like to inspect. Right? That is what this etan, right? So what he says is these armies I would like to inspect. That is what the context is. Niriksha is I would like to see, right? Pariksha niriksha is the way that we say, right? That is the inspection aspect of it. Yodhu kaman, those who are desiring to fight. This is not a fight that Pandavas have started. This is a fight that Kauravas have induced, because Pandavas had gone up to the extent of saying, give me just 5 villages and we will be very happy and content with it. But Duryodhana said, not this much of land. Right? So Yodhu Kaman. Now he says he's classifying them as those who are desiring to fight. Avastithan is assembled. Kaihi, with whom, Maya Saha, together with me. This is another beautiful place. It is not like I am going to fight. It is we are going to fight. With me, all of us are going to fight. Together with them, I am going to fight is a better way to represent. Right? So that humility automatically comes out. So though it is the ahambhava that get projected as a kshatriya, because of his humility, he immediately got subdued and he says, Maya saha yodhavyam, have to fight asmin rana samudhyame, in this battle. Right? Those samudhyame basically endeavors to, those who endeavor to fight. This is the meaning of this shloka. Now, this mixed emotion can be seen here. The garva that one has, the pride that one carries, has both positive and negative connotations. With respect to the positive side of it, we can see that Arjuna was able to win over that pride, which was established in Mey Ratham to Mayasaha. That change in the attitude could be seen, which naturally occurred. Nobody needed to come and tell him. Right? It was very natural in him. The true feeling came out. A clarity of command is necessary. Mey Ratham Sthaapaya. Right? That brings about a very, very clear clarity. Where to Sthaapaya? Senayoho Ubhayoho Madhe. Very, very clear. There is no further explanation required. Right? It is not required for a leader to give reasons to the subordinates. In fact, we must not be giving reasons to our subordinates when we are in a leadership position. But Arjuna gives the reason to Lord Krishna. That in itself is self-revealing that it is not Garva that was driving him. It is the true humility that he has carried throughout Mahabharata that we can see. The negative aspect of it is, even here he says Maya Saha. Though in the meaning we had also seen it as right, Saha Maya. We can put it in either way. I together with them, or they together with me. When we look at it as Maya Saha, there are specific interpretations where the emphasis is seen as Arjuna giving emphasis to himself first. The expression of aham nirikshe is another expression of self-pride. But that is also arguable because not everyone is coming along. Only I am going. So it is contextually very correct to say aham nirikshe. But there again, using the term aham is saying that I takes over the bigger aspect of the war and of the self of or of the us as a concept. Right. So that is again a point that there are interpretations that bring about. Yodhu Kaman. It is again, this is seen as an assumption. The problem is when I say Yodhu Kaman, right, I have already decided that they have assembled here for with the desire, with the purpose of fighting, with a love to fight, with the only intent to fight. But that is not the case. There could be several instances which is not so very true for a simple reason. Like Vikarna was very clearly against the war, but he is fought because that was his duty. Bhishma Pitama, again, he was clearly against the war, but he fought because that was his duty. As a Kshatriya, to perform the duty, it becomes a Visesha dharma which takes over everything else. There, the Yodhu Kaman is not really applicable. Right. However, during the discussion, this was negated because Kaman does not only mean desire, but also means intent. So if you take the context of with the intent to fight, which is very, very natural. Everyone who is assembled there has assembled there with an intent to fight, except for those who are in the supply chain or the medical support systems and so on. But those who have assembled there in the formation have definitely assembled with an intent to fight. There, the Kaman must be interpreted as an intent and not as a desire. This is the way the discussions went. Yet again, as I said, these are discussions which may seem to be, wow, what is this? Great. What kind of discussions you have had? Or what meaningless? In fact, this time could have been spent on much better aspects like, discussing on the Atma bhavam and so on and so forth. We have discussed about that also a lot, right? Several at length we have discussed, right? But that doesn't mean this discussion is of any lower value. So just bringing it to you as a concept that will allow you to expand your thinking and to bring about more questions into the equation. Even those who follow the path of dharma and have absolute devotion, their pride can stem out. Their Garvam can stem out. This is an important value for us. However, when you are on the side of dharma and the devotion is absolute in you, that Garvam will come back to humility, will bring you back there. So, if you experience Garvam, don't be dismayed. Hold your values to righteousness and devotion. That is the core value that we get from Arjuna's current experiences as described in Bhagavad Gita. Moving on to the 23rd shloka. The shloka goes like this. Yotsyamanaveksheham yete atra samagataha dhartarashtrasya durbuddhe yuddhe priyachikirshavaha. This continues with Arjuna's expression. Yotsyamanan, those who will be fighting. Avekshe aham, aham, let me see, avekshe. Ya ete, atra samagataha, those who have assembled here, right, in this battlefield. Dhartarashtrasya, which is referring to the sons of Dhritarashtra. And here it is seen with specific to the sons of Dhritarashtra as expressed in the earlier classes that I have been to. But the fact is, it could be referring to the army of Dhritarashtra as well. But here the specific reference is towards Duryodhana and the Dushasan, right, who were primary reason for the war. So that is the way we interpret it. Durbuddhehe, here evil-minded, having adharmic intentions. That is what is durbuddhehe, ill-natured. Yuddhe priyachikirshavaha. So here again he emphasizes those who feel a, what do you say, liking, those who feel a love towards the yuddha, the fight. So that is what he is again communicating. And this is one of the reasons why the Dhartarashtrasya is seen with a specific reference to Dhartarashtra, Dhritarashtra's sons. But we know that Vikarna was not in favor of the war, and about other brothers, it is often seen that they merely follow what Duryodhana does, and hence the specific call out being made was to Duryodhana and Dushasan. However, we can debate on it. We can look at various aspects of what all that could be, but the intent here is very clear. Here, the expression brings about the emphasis that there are at least some who have not merely an intent to fight, but also who have the desire to, who have that longingness to fight, which is respectively Duryodhana and Dushasan. Going further. So let us look at the negative context of Garvam. No, it is an expression of anger. We will see when Bhagavan goes into the Upadesh, Bhagavan will tell how anger leads to self-destruction. Very beautifully it comes, very, very nicely presented. Right? When we are talking about the way the objects attract your senses, how the desire leads to your moham, that moham leads to buddhinasham, buddhinasham leads to pranashyati, is the way that it goes. It's a very, very beautiful area, and we will see that in the second chapter. The attributions of durbuddhe and yuddhe priyachikirshavaha are all reflections of Arjuna's anger and discontentment with the situation. This was again discussed at length, right? Maybe for about 15-20 minutes kind of thing, where we were able to identify why Arjuna's anger and discontentment was expressed in this. Now, what he has said, durbuddhe or yuddhe priyachikirshavaha, they are all just his own imagination, right? It could have been an intent to do an assessment, but there is no scope for such intent or such assessment to be done, right? So it was in the middle of the battlefield about to start, and you can see that his action is futile, is having no purpose, or is having no effect to what his actions are going to lead to, right? So that aspect tells that it is totally coming out of Garvam. However, we can look at it from a positive side as well. It could be a wonder. How come we have such people who are desirous of war, especially knowing very well that adharma was what the pursuit of Kauravas were? Perhaps if Kaurava army had not become 11 Akshuhini, maybe Duryodhan might have thought second to say that, okay, let me go for the 5 village. But seeing this big of an army and support, maybe he did that. So that could have been a wonder which made him to go and take a look at it. Right. It is also very much possible. We tend to look at both sides. Right. That is what we do in every analysis. Right. First thing is, if I say that Atma is Nitya, the first statement that should come out of your mind is, why is Atma not Anitya? Why do you say Atma is Nitya? Right. Then we have a very, very good sense of discussions going on. That is more like a question and answer, however. But if you go and establish that, well, people do get killed and Atma goes, that consciousness is not there. So how can you say Atma is Nitya? Now we have a better argument or better, what is a deliberation. And these deliberations are the one which leads us to elevation. Right? So that is the reason why we are doing these analysis at this chapter, so that when we go to the real context in the 11th shloka of the second chapter, these deliberations will prompt you to negate what I am saying or come back with some kind of a context which is not in line with what the shloka expresses, I explain, or what even Acharya puts in the words of Bhashyam. Right? But the idea is to liberate ourselves from any clutches of saying this is what the truth is. But when you deliberate, you see the truth which I will never be able to see. Because the truth that I am seeing, you will never be able to see. For it is Paramarthikam. Coming back into the place, we look at both positive and negative possibilities. Foundational principle in Vedanta is be open to possibilities and pursue the path to determine the truth. Anything that you see is generally looked at through the prism of your past experiences and opinions. And this applies to me speaking with my past experiences and my own opinions as well as opinions of my gurus, my, what do you say, compatriots and my, people whom I have been looking up to for their ability to do analysis. It is from their opinion, right? That opinion is not the truth. It is like a mirror that shows you something. It is you who see it to find the truth. Whatever one experiences has negative opinions, remember, they come out of ahambhava. The root is the dualistic approach of the buddhi. It is the nature of the buddhi to dissect things logically, and ignorance is seeing your buddhi as you. When we talk of truth, there are three kinds of truth. We have spoken about it earlier too, which is pratibhasikam, vyavaharikam, and paramarthikam. Right? The truth which is only applicable to me, the truth that you and I see together, where we can transact vyavaharikam, and the absolute truth, which is not defined but is realized. It is known and there is no second thought to it. It doesn't vanish. But we will speak about the truth. We have spoken about it in the Vishnu Sahasranama class as well. But we will go much more deeper when we go into Bhagavad Gita. Samsara, giving a one order of truth, the status of other, which is pratibhasika sat, being given vyavaharikam, is the root to samsara, is another way of looking at it. For example, I am of the opinion that Ravi Bhaiya, who is sitting with me today, is the most intelligent person on CC++. And you go and talk to him, he says, what is a header file? But he doesn't say that he knows C or C++. He has never said, I am telling it. And when you go talk to him, he says, what is a header file? And you look at me, what nonsense have you spoken? Right? That is the context. The thing is, what is my personal opinion? I have projected it to you and given it to you as a vyavaharika sat, or as a transactional reality. Now you go back and you bring the transactional reality to someone as a truth. That brings about the disturbances. That's about it. The same context, when I put it within myself, I think that such and such is there, and I give an assignment to Ravi Bhaiya, thinking that this is what it is, will lead me to my own failure. Right? So that aspect of it is called as putting a wrong set of reality in the wrong order. As simple as that. That brings about a samsara, is one of the way of looking at samsara. Arjuna's ahambhava is considered the reason for his misstep towards his own vishadam. However, because he was with Bhagavan, it turned out to be a prasad not only for Arjuna, but for the samasta loka, for all of us. In this shloka number 24, Sanjaya uvacha eva mukto hrishikesho gudakeshena bharata senayorubhayor madhye stapayitva rathottamam. So here Sanjaya is speaking and he is telling what exactly happened. Sanjaya uvacha. Sanjaya spoke. Evam uktah, having been told so. Right? The so in this manner becomes evam, having been told is uktah. To whom? Hrishikeshah, to Lord Krishna. By whom? Gudakeshena Bharata, by Bharata, who is Arjuna. And what kind of Bharata he is? He is Gudakeshena. Gudaka means one who has won over the, or is sleep, or is tamogun. Ishaha is Lord of. There is another way of interpreting. So one is one who is the Lord of the sleep, as in one who has won over the sleep is Gudakesha. Or putting it the other way, in other words, Guda Keshaha. Guda is thick and Keshaha is hair. There is a reference to this in Udyoga Parva. I got to know of this when I was doing research, and I said, oh, wow, what kind of a thing is this? Though I made it a point to bring it here to say that Gudakeshena generally is said for he has won the sleep in the night. But when I saw this in Udyoga Parva, I said, this also means Gudakesha. So why not we add that as well? It is not said as Gudakesha in Udyoga Parva. It only says that he has a very thick hair. Then I just kind of put the two and two together. I said, why not we add Guda Keshaha, which is one who has a very thick hair. Right. So that is the way we want to always grow. Describes Arjuna as one having eyes like lotus petals and curly hairs and thick hairs kind of a stuff. That is the way that it goes in Udyoga Parva, where Bhishma Pitama will be describing Arjuna. Right. And I said, yeah, wow, this is a good one. And this is what Gudakesha should also mean. And let us include that as a meaning. Now, what does he do? Senayoho ubhayoho madhye. Between the two armies, Sthaapayitva, established, placed, situated, Rathottamam, the Uttama Ratham. We will talk about why it is Uttama Ratham, but the idea is his Ratham, which carried the flag of Hanuman, was placed between the two armies by Achyuta, by Lord Sri Krishna. Very beautiful expression here. Now, Gudaka plus Ishaha is Gudakeshaha. That is the general way that everybody has been at least discussing with me, and that is the only way that I knew before this particular study. Now, Guda refers to tamogun, and especially the sleep. Ishaha means lord of. So direct meaning is one who has won over the influences of sleep or won over the influences of tamogun. Again, tamas represents darkness, ignorance, delusion, and one who has overcome the tamas is Gudakeshaha. Perhaps not really applicable because he does fall into the tamas in this shloka itself. Now, what is the effect of tamogun? Ignorance, confusion, delusion, misunderstanding, negativity, fear, anxiety, right? Procrastination, laziness, stagnation, resistance to change. All these are the effects of the tamo. Maybe something that you may want to really look at it again and again. Addictions and violence or harmful behavior is also related to tamogun. Sluggishness, unhealthy lifestyles, self-centeredness, jealousy, hatred, or a desire to harm others, indifference towards the need or feelings of others, even these are attributed to tamogun. It is said that the chronic illness is an effect of tamasic gun, but they can also be due to other reasons like viruses, etc. I'm telling this because I have a chronic illness. I'm not too sure if I have the other effects of tamogun, but I have my own self-pride or Garvam, which is coming up to say that it can be due to other reasons like viruses, etc. The fact of the matter is, this is not written by me. I just got it when I was reading it through. So someone else has said that. I have just reproduced it here. So they say that chronic illness is also a possible effect of tamasic gun, but they can also be due to other reasons like viruses, etc. Now, Gudakeshaha is one who does not allow the influence of the tamogun. No, you can start by becoming a, a, a person who is driven by sattva sankalpa, right? One who is gudakashatvam, right? Get to know of the influences of tamogun at the earliest and pull yourself out by active engagement. It could be going out for a walk, cleaning the room, etc. But change your situation so that you can overcome the tamogun and you can also become a Gudakesha. But in what is a practice, this goes with the Mahabharata story where Bhima is described to be a foodie, a person who likes to eat and who is always hungry kind of a stuff. It is even said that half of what is being cooked is kept for Bhima and the other half is spread between the other four brothers. Right. So that was the kind of a person Bhima was. And he will feel hungry in the night and he will just walk straight to the kitchen and know where the food is. He will eat and come back to sleep. Arjuna once wakes up and finds this is what is happening. So it strikes his mind to say that if Bhima is able to navigate to the food with total darkness and without any problem and come back, it means we can navigate through darkness. So he takes the picture of Dronacharya and he starts practicing the bow and arrow at night. And he becomes one who can fight during the night as well. Even if it is pitch dark, he can hit his targets. And hence, he was named Gudakeshaha. That is the story behind Gudakeshaha. But we look at so many other values, as always, to understand the term that it brings as a value in our life. So with this, we finish the shloka number 24 and we will start with the shloka number 25 in our next class. I did see Shubhaji, you had come, and we also have Jyotiji. Maybe we'll start with Jyoti ji as her name is on the top. Jyoti ji, namaskar.
Namaste, Nashji. Nashji, I have no questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Shubhaji, I know that you had a question in our previous to previous class when I missed your name, and you were thinking of sending it across to me, but or speak about it in the next class. So if you would like to, you can always ask that question now.
Yeah, and I conveniently skipped last class. Sorry, it was not intentional.
No.
So Nashi, I was trying to actually remember what I wanted to ask, but I couldn't get the whole context. So I thought I will go back and listen to that class, and then maybe I'll come back on that.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, sure. No problem. And again, it is a very natural thing that happens that where we ask a question and forget it, and it will come back again. It may surface like after a few classes also. So it is absolutely fine. Whenever it surfaces, feel free to drop a note or always ask during the class.
Yeah, sure.
Anything from today's class?
I was thinking about my laziness. I know I saw that. Um, I was thinking uh, even not only viruses, but this cold weather also makes you really lazy.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. I think, and the lack of sun in Oregon, all of those are kind of contributors to our laziness. So we are all on the same boat. For the rain, absolutely does. Yeah, the rain absolutely does, as Ravi Bhaiya says.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Good.
Well,
Thank you.
but it is something that we all can fight, and we can fight it together.
Yes.
Acha ji. Chalo, we'll turn to Ravi Bhaiya, who is here in person today. No question, thank you. So, well, I hope you enjoyed the class today, and we will connect again in our next class on Wednesday next. Harihi Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnad Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavasishyate Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat.